Hey everyone! If you've clicked on today's video, you're probably wondering what my story is in regards to why I tried to end my own life. And I've never done anything like this before. I have told some people my story, but it's not something that you know, casually bring up in conversation. And the reason why I wanted to film this is because I'm not sure of the date, but the month of August is when I tried to kill myself. And that's such a weird thing to say out loud. If I'm completely honest, I don't really remember too well this certain period of my life. I feel like in my teen years there's at least a 5-year gap that I've kind of erased from my mind, and I don't know if that's from, I guess, the trauma I experienced, if you can call it that, but I will try my best to not ramble on and kind of what led me to that point. Growing up, I was a really happy, positive, energetic child. I loved to dance and play sports and be outside a lot and play with my friends, and you know, I was a very extroverted child. And I ended up moving schools a lot because I used to dance, so I went to quite a few different dance schools. And when one of my dance schools ended up shutting down, I moved to a public school just down the road from where I used to live. And this is where I grew up. I think I was about 13 years old at that time, and a lot of people had these misconstructed ideas about me because I came from a private school. Technically, a lot of the dance schools in my area were actually private schools, but with a dance syllabus. You know, I was on a scholarship for starters, so like in no way do I come from a wealthy background, but you know, these kids didn't know that, and so they decided to judge me purely based on the fact that I went to a private school. Once they realized that I was like this weird smiley person, I ended up making a lot of friends, and I had a lot of mixed friendship groups as well. But I did always feel like I was hiding behind this facade that everything was good 24/7. You know, I wanted to make my friends happy to the point where I was just neglecting myself, and I guess I was suppressing a lot of emotions, and I did always feel like I was wearing a mask every day. I'd go to school, I'd wear a mask, you know, I was always happy, I was always positive, no one could see me as anything but. And the thing that changed it for me was when, sorry, that's the neighbors, they're moving things around outside, but I think the turning point was when I was experiencing a lot of issues with my dad. And because I was a teenager at that point, obviously I was going through a lot of stuff with hormones and boys and school and friends, and I never really noticed things that I could have done to be there for my dad, rather than turning a blind eye to it all and just, you know, going out with my friends because I didn't want to be at home. And I think the turning point for me was when things started getting quite bad with my dad. I didn't realize it at the time. I don't know when it even started, but you know, he was going through a lot of rough patches in his life, and his mental health was really deteriorating, and there are a lot of things over probably the course of a year that I never really thought too much about. And you know, how was I to know, because I was just a child. You know, I remember I'd be in bed and I'd hear him shouting at my mum because he was gonna overdose on his medication. I would wake him up in the morning and he, you know, inflicted self-harm on his face, down his arms. There'd be dry blood everywhere. He would stay up late in a shed that he bought for himself. He put it on the driveway and would just drink. You know, he wasn't an alcoholic, but he ended up turning into one. He would just drink the cheapest vodka or gin or whatever he could get his hands on, and he would just sit there and self-harm. After a while, he ended up putting plastic sheets around the gazebo area in our garden, and he tried to hang himself. It didn't go through, but he tried to do that, and he was like a Jekyll and Hyde. Like, my dad he was the most bubbliest, funny, caring, loving, doting parent, and to see the contrast of when he would start drinking, it was like you wouldn't even recognize him, and he'd become angry at the dinner table and abusive. I tried to stop him from hurting my sister once, and he punched me in the face and I went flying, and you know, I went to school the very next day like everything was fine, because you know, Nally was always happy, nothing was ever wrong. And then it just started going downhill even more than that. He would take his car to the park down the road, and he would sit in his car and just drink until he was drunk enough to not think about the fact he was putting a black bin bag liner over his head so that he could suffocate himself. And so he tried this numerous times. The police would bring him home until eventually he was sent to I guess a psychiatric ward. I don't know, he was put in a room in Worthing Hospital where he stayed for a few days, and we went and visited him, and you just don't know the depth of why this person is doing all this stuff when you're 14, 15 years old. Like, the crux of it all was when he realized he could attach his car exhaust by a pipe leading into his car. And I would have my sister calling me some nights saying, can you check on Dad in the driveway? My bedroom overlooked the driveway, so I could see if he was there sometimes, and if he was, I was instructed to go knock on the car window and tell him to stop whatever he was doing. And I think I did that 2 times, and obviously he was drunk and said, oh, you know, it's fine darling, I'm just chilling. And then one day when everyone was out, I had a big dance audition the next day, so I wanted to go to bed early, and he was acting really weird, saying, why didn't you go sleep at your boyfriend's house? And that was just a bit out of character, because never would he suggest I go stay at my boyfriend's house. And I was like, oh no, like I've got my audition tomorrow. He's like, oh okay. So that was the end of that. I went to bed, and he came in my room, and he said that to make sure I went to bed on time, to leave my mobile phone in the hallway, and then he'd wake me up in the morning. Sorry. But yeah, he told me he loved me, and I was in a mood with him at the time, so I didn't say it back. And the next morning, there was a knock on the front door. I thought it was Naomi, my sister, that she'd forgotten her key, and it was my neighbour across the road. And he said, I'm really sorry to tell you this, but your dad's in the driveway in his car and he's not waking up. So after that all happened, I just felt really numb. I guess I just sealed everything away in a box, and I went to school the next day as if nothing happened. I didn't tell any of my friends. I just wanted everything to be normal, and it just so happened the assembly that morning was about the effects smoking can do to you, and how you know, effectively you can die from carbon monoxide poisoning, which is, and I'm not too clear about it all, but there was a conversation about, you know, carbon monoxide getting into your lungs and how bad that can be for you, and that is how my dad died, you know, like from the fumes filling up his car until he fell asleep and didn't wake up anymore. So I think I was about 15, 16 when all that happened, and I started smoking after that. I started drinking, I would go out a lot, I just shut everything off, and I was tired of being this person that was happy because I wasn't, you know. I would show the fact that I was, but I was just suppressing everything deep down. I was just piling everything on top, one after the other. And then I think I was 19, and it was Gay Pride in Brighton in August. I think it's the first weekend of August. And I just had enough. I didn't feel like myself anymore. I was tired. I just remember feeling really exhausted of being who I was. Like, I didn't understand what people saw in me. I felt like this shell, this lifeless vessel of a person. So I drove myself to Tesco. I bought about 3-4 packets of paracetamol, and I didn't really think about the fact that, you know, it wasn't actually going to be a quick death. It turns out if you do that, it's really slow. It targets your insides, and it's a very lengthy, internally painful death. But I wasn't really thinking about it. So the next morning I just started popping them all out of the packet. I downed it all with water in my bedroom, and I went to work that day. And I messaged my friend at the time, Courtney, what I had done. She's the only person I told, and in the back of my mind I just felt, well, I want to tell someone so they know what happened to me, but I didn't think that she could do anything about it. She lived in London. So there I was at work. I was working in the stockroom, and someone comes up to me and says, Nally, there's an ambulance here for you. What's wrong? And I didn't say anything. I just burst into tears, and I was driving in the back of an ambulance through the streets of Brighton whilst Gay Pride was going on, and I was admitted into hospital for, I think it was 2 nights. I was put on a drip that made me throw up everything that I had taken. I don't really know what was in the drip, and I didn't tell anyone I was there. I was there by myself, 2 nights in hospital. After all of that, it was a big wake-up call for me, and I realised that for the first time in my life I'd never felt more alive, in a weird sense. I'm really grateful for my friend Courtney for calling the ambulance for me, because if that hadn't happened I probably wouldn't be here today. And hand on my heart, ever since that day, the best days of my life have happened since then, and I'm sure there are going to be many, many more. And of course I regret what I did, but I feel like I learned so much from that experience. I wish I hadn't had gotten to that point and I had actually spoken to my friends and didn't spend years suppressing all those emotions. It really, really affects you to bottle so much of that inside. It is crucially important that if you're feeling those feelings, just talk to someone. It can be absolutely anyone, it doesn't matter, or journal them or something. I don't want anyone else to learn the hard way. If I had just gone to counselling properly, like I should have done after my dad's death, if I had just confided in my friends and said, you know, this has just happened in my life, my dad has passed away, if I had actually just stayed at home and given myself time to grieve, then maybe it wouldn't have taken 4 or 5 years for me to deal with guilt and shame and everything else I was feeling. You can move on a lot quicker and enjoy your life. And a lot of other things that have really helped me since then is meditation. If you think about it, it's just a time for you to just reflect, to just sit in silence and focus and zone out and remind yourself what you're grateful for, to visualize the highest version of yourself. And exercise has really helped me too. It's a way that I can vent. I feel good for it. I'm healthy because of it. There are so many things that you can do to prevent that worst possible outcome from happening. But my biggest takeaway from everything that's happened in my life is to put yourself first, to focus on your mental health. Do things that make you happy. Follow your passions, follow your dreams. Put yourself first. I actually ended up moving to Australia. I bought a one-way ticket. I went by myself and I was adamant on changing the person that I was into the person that I wanted to be. And from there I went to the cinema by myself because, you know, I was someone that couldn't look people in the eye and order something from a shop. I couldn't walk into a restaurant first. I couldn't take back refunds into a shop. I just drew inwards and I didn't want to be that person anymore. I refused to be that person. I wanted, you know, the person that I felt like I was deep down inside to shine through. I wanted to flourish, and you know, I took a very drastic measure. I'm not saying you have to move abroad, but I found my love for travel through that, and through traveling it opened my eyes to so much more in the world and how my life could be and who I could help and the things that I could do. And yeah, ever since that day that I tried to take my own life, like I said before, have experienced some of the best days of my life, and I've seen incredible things and I've done incredible things, and I'm so grateful to be where I am now. So, I mean, I'm currently living in Dubai. Like, that's madness, but I just, you know, opportunities that come my way, I seize them. I seize the day. I want the most for myself and I show up for myself, most importantly. So thank you so much for listening to my story. I'm sorry I got a bit emotional in the middle there, and I'm sorry if I rambled on, but thank you for letting me share this with you. If any of you, you know, are feeling that way or feeling down, you have no one else you can confide in, please message me, comment down below, leave your email, we can chat, whatever it is. Message me on Instagram, like, slide into my DMs, let's chat. I don't want anyone to ever feel the way that I did and what I went through. I want you guys to be happy, and to, above all else, just be happy being you, because you are amazing, and don't let anyone else dim your shine. So yeah, thank you guys, love you.